Hello and welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for I'm a Big Shot Now, released in 1936. It's the 128th in the series and it's directed by Friz Freleng. At the time of this recording, there's no restoration. Hopefully that will change because this is actually a nice little hidden gem. It's not the most amazing cartoon in the world, but this one definitely deserves a restoration because I think this one would look really good restored. Plus it's funny. I mean, all of them should be restored, but this one definitely in particular because I think this one is definitely ripe for rediscovery. It is under copyright. Can't show you the full thing here on YouTube, otherwise Warner Brothers will just block this video. They may put it on their channel, highly unlikely, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. But in case you haven't seen this one, we see on the wrong side of town a crook named Spike. He decides he's going to rob a bank, and he actually is successful. He hides out in the birdhouse, and the cops eventually spot him, and that all leads to a shootout at the very end. Nothing too deep story-wise. It is a Merry Melody short, so it is promoting a song. And my good friend Manny Cruz, the Toonie Tenor, he's going to hop on the video later on, and he's going to go through the music portion of this short, where this song originates from, some of the music cues, and also the main bit of trivia, which is that this is the last short to be scored by Bernard B. Brown, who had been scoring these shorts for the past few years. Later on in 1936, we'll see Carl Starling start to score these, and he will do so for a very long period of time. But we're in that transition period when it comes to music. And speaking of transition period, the Tex Avery influence on the studio is definitely coming into play here. If you watch this short, it's unmistakably Friz Freleng, and the feel of it, the animation, and just a general vibe feels like a Friz Freleng short from the past few years. But you will notice a lot of the Tex Avery way of thinking when it comes to gags creep into it. Friz Freleng had his way of timing things, so while the gags would be something that Tex Avery would likely do, Avery himself would have executed it differently, and Freleng does his own thing here, and that's what I think is interesting. Freleng clearly is liking what Avery's doing, and he's trying to do it himself. Does everything work in this short? Maybe not, but you can definitely see that he's trying to make things funnier. Especially once we reach the shootout at the very end, you get a whole bunch of visual gags, and it's a lot more fast-paced as well. And we'll certainly go through the whole short from start to finish anyway in relation to the gags, and I'll point out a few observations in relation to it. But the theme of this short is crime. I mean, it should be pretty obvious with the footage that you're seeing, right? But at the time, gangster pictures were huge, especially ones released by Warner Brothers. They did quite a few. And one of the biggest films of that time period in terms of gangster films is Scarface. I mean, you've even got the main character Spike. He's flipping his coin just like George Raft did. But there were other films like Bullets or Ballots, Little Caesar, among others, that were released, a lot of which were starring maybe James Cagney or Edward G. Robinson. So much like the 1950s is associated with westerns and sci-fi, in the 1930s, one of the main genres that was hugely popular was the gangster flick. So this short parodies all of that, right down to the fact that crime doesn't pay and we have to have a main character arrested at the end. If you ever get a chance to watch some of the gangster flicks of the 1930s, do yourself a favor and definitely give those a watch. I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen a fair few, and well, I can think of worse ways to spend my time, because a lot of them, especially Scarface, excellent movie. Definitely give that a watch when you can. But we're going to go through this short from start to finish, and just go through some of the puns before I bring Manny Cruz on board to discuss the musical elements. So I mentioned before, this is not restored, and we can see here it's just a Blue Ribbon reissue, so at the time of this recording, it's assumed that the titles are lost. Hopefully they can be found. But we start off with we're in Birdville. I like the fact that these are birds, but even though they've got wings, they're just more or less humans in the shape of birds. I get a kick out of silly things like that. And it looks like some of these birds can fly, some of these birds can't seem to fly. Anyway, I know I'm overthinking it, but yeah, I get a kick out of it, okay? It's just one of those little amusing things. But we see our establishing shot, where we're establishing the good side of town. So we're seeing everyone going back to their daily business. We see a bird in the tree with overalls. He's doing a whole basket weaving thing with a worm. So even if some of the gags aren't ha-ha funny, at least some of it's charming, like this worm gag here. But we see a woodpecker who looks like just a regular bird compared to the other birds who are wearing clothes and all that. How dare there not be any consistency? How dare there? I'm kidding, of course. But we see the woodpecker going about its business. The bug is not happy, and in a gag, again, it's gags like this where you know that there's a Tex Avery influence, but the bug ends up hammering the beak, trapping the woodpecker, presumably to die, but in any case. So we head over to Birdville Bank, and it's interesting because the bank will become a bit of a plot point later on, once it actually is robbed. It's interesting to see that we established that there's a bank and it's business as usual. We even learned the currency is worms. I wonder how the worms feel about that, but you get 2.5 worms interest on all deposit, and of course, I wonder who wrote this gag. Save for rainy day, buy umbrellas. Ha ha. But we see the bird actually depositing acorns, so now I'm confused about their monetary system. So is it worms? Is it acorns? I know, I'm overthinking. I'm just having fun with it, okay, guys? I assure you, I do not lose sleep over such things, okay? But then we get a nice bit of layout where we've established the good side of town, but on the wrong side of the street, we see a rundown, poor area of town. We even see a glamorous-looking woman who may be a lady of the night, I don't know. We even see a reward poster for some crook. I don't know if that's a caricature of anyone, but still, it looks pretty mean. Why is it a human? I don't know, but we're going to go inside this saloon because saloons are very sleazy places, as we all know. Now, if this animation looks familiar to you, it's reused from A Long Flirtation Walk. And you know what? That animation's really good, so if you can reuse it, why not reuse it? There's nothing wrong with it here, and I doubt that the audiences would have noticed nor cared, but it's an observation, nothing more. So after we see some dancing, we pan past the bar, and I love the designs of some of these shady-looking characters drinking and smoking as all bad people do, right? And we see our main character, Spike, because we've got to give him a really tough name, don't we? I like the sign in the background. Name your pissin. I'm actually racking my brain over what that's referring to, so definitely let me know in the comments below. And that gin poster as well. Gin for a jitney. Again, it's a pun that I'm not aware of, so definitely let me know in the comments below. And we see some wonderful animation of our main character singing the title song. It's interesting that the song here, it's sung with substitute lyrics, so he's singing about being a tough guy, he can lick all the cops and so on, but the original song, and Manny will go through this, is sung by a young girl, and so I'm just trying to picture, it would have been interesting if these actually were the original lyrics and you hear a little girl singing such lyrics, it would have been incredibly weird, but again, Manny will go through that in more detail. So while he's singing, we see a cop walking by, and there's a poster in the back that I'm surprised wasn't caught by the censors, because we see that it's a play on a burlesque show, and we see only half a body there, but it looks like a naked woman in that shot. Granted, it's not restored. Maybe she's wearing some lingerie or something, but in this shot, she definitely looks quite naked there. So how that wasn't picked up, I don't know. But we see that Spike is so brazen, he's singing about how tough he is, he even grabs the cop, smacks the crap out of him, and throws the cop back out. Later on, Friz Freleng would be the master of off-screen action, and this is one of the earlier examples of him actually doing that, because we don't see him smacking the crap out of this police officer. We imagine it to be a lot worse than what it perhaps actually is. Granted, budgets would be part of it, yes, but it's definitely really effective here. And in a wonderful shot, involving 5 shots, get it? Spike ends up pouring himself 5 shots of whatever alcoholic beverage it is, slams his fist onto the bar, and ends up drinking all the shots. I think we should try and popularize drinking in that way. It's pretty impressive. Now, in an interesting bit of layout, we see Spike walk over to the entrance, opens up the blinds, and notices the Birdville Bank, and just randomly decides to rob it. Okay, sure. And again, we see an effect here that is being used less and less as time goes on, where someone will be looking at something and we see animated dotted lines showing exactly what they're trying to focus on. Even though here we don't even need to know that. We see that he opens the blinds and he sees the bank. It should be pretty apparent. But they also drive the point home by having the word bank zoom in like that. So it's unnecessary, but okay. So Spike really is a big shot, so he tells all of his fellow crooks that, okay, follow me, we're just going to rob this bank, and everyone just agrees to it, including one person who even pushes a woman away, because I guess he's also a big shot with the ladies, right? But what a wonderful walk cycle of all these crooks just walking along to the good side of the neighborhood, and they enter in and they start robbing up the place, and again, off-screen action. We just see bullets flying, smoke everywhere. We're letting the sound effects do the talking here while we see Spike flipping his coin like George Raft. But we see that they're so organized, and again, it's like Spike literally got the idea to rob the bank. There's no planning, nothing, and yet it seems to be a very well executed robbery. But they all make their escape. We see that the cops have left the police station and are now frantically searching for the robbers. But that bit where the officers initially chase after the crooks, again, there's another bit of Tex Avery influence there, where you have the front police officer with a shotgun shooting, and it's so powerful that all the officers get flung back. It's beautifully timed. Again, Avery would have likely approached it a little differently, but the gag idea is definitely something that's in Avery's wheelhouse. And Spike is so cunning, he's even inside the exhaust pipe, and he continues to shoot. I mean, this is some conniving crook, you know? So they end up escaping, and we see in a very brief moment a newspaper article. There's no real puns here, but if you look very closely, this is just one of those little Easter egg things. So we see Warner Brothers expanded, and we see a few names. Tubby Millar, he's a writer, so Tubby Millar buys home. We see Jack Carr, who was an animator. He's obviously saying something. Norm McCabe, another animator, and he'll end up being director for a little while. I Freely wins an award, and he literally will in the years to come, for the first shorts pairing up Sylvester and Tweety, among others. So it's interesting that they put enough detail in a lot of the titles there, but even though, of course, we very briefly see this one newspaper shot, so I guess they're just having a bit of fun with that. And we see now that Spike is wanted for bank robbery, and the reward is 500 worms. And again, I wonder how that would work currency-wise compared to the dollar, but Spike's all happy. He rips up his own wanted poster. He's a tough guy. He has won. But he won't be able to celebrate for long because a police officer just happens to see the car and blows the whistle at getting all the other police officers who are hiding for some reason. I don't know what they were doing, but it's a nice little shot, especially of those two officers that somehow have squeezed behind that one tiny tree there. But Spike now has holed himself in, and it's Spike versus all the police officers. I've got to say, he's got a lot of guts taking an entire police force on his own. Where are the other crooks in this? I don't know, but I'm assuming that they're held up in their own hideouts, and they're the ones that are going to get away with their cut of the dough. So his first shot of the police officers behind a log shooting at Spike. They all stand up, and Spike ends up shooting at them. And it's just weird how his gun turns from being a regular pistol into a machine gun. So it's a weird one, but anyway. And speaking of machine gun, we see an officer with an actual machine gun, and he's shooting upwards, and he's digging himself in. It's a silly little gag, but again, this is the kind of thing that Avery would implement himself, and Freely does it pretty well here. So a nice bit of timing. We then see Spike shooting, flipping the coin, shooting, flipping the coin, and so on, but one of the officers shoots the coin, and now he is mad. So mad that his pistol now shoots like a machine gun. We see another police officer with a shotgun. Again, these shotguns must be really strong in Birdville because it keeps on pushing everyone back, and in this case, the officer's just spinning around and around. The shootout gets so intense that we see a whole bunch of birds now up in the air, acting as actual birds, because you do have to wonder why the other birds don't just fly up and just overpower Spike and arrest him. But anyway, we see all these blackbirds acting like airplanes, and it's a nice little touch where you can see underneath that their legs are holding on to shotguns, so they're like fighter planes, but just the way it's done, it's pretty creative. After some near misses onto Spike, we see another police officer who thinks he's Tarzan. Unlike reusing some generic sound effects from a Tarzan movie, someone in the studio just made the sound. Noted voice expert Keith Scott isn't aware of who does the voices in this short. He has a rough idea, but for the moment, he's not sure who does the voices. But we see our hero cop, aka Tarzan cop, just shooting away. We see another cop shooting from underneath. It's a pretty good shot because the bottom of the birdhouse ends up breaking. Spike falls into the police car, and they all proceed to beat the living crap out of him. We then get a reprise at the end, and he's now a softie in jail. But I gotta say, the fact that he took on a whole police force by himself, it's pretty impressive. But of course, crime doesn't pay, and we have to parody all those crime movies. Now, I've prattled on long enough, and my good friend Manny Cruz, the Toonie Tenor, he's going to now discuss the musical portion, as this is promoting a song. So, take it away, Manny.
Hi, everyone. This is Manny Cruz, the Toonie Tenor, coming at you with the latest edition of It's Time for Manny's Music Time, with music trivia for you today. Bum! for the 1936 Merry Melody cartoon, I'm a Big Shot, directed by Isidore Fritz Freeling, with musical direction by Bernard Brown. And speaking of our friend Bernard Brown, this is the final cartoon that he writes the score for. He's going to continue doing sound effects and film editing for Termite Terrace until he gets replaced in the same year, 1936, with his non-relative, Treg Brown, who has a huge history and all that fun stuff. But obviously, if you love Warner Brothers shorts, you're definitely going to learn about Treg Brown at some point. But if you do want to learn about Bernard, please check out the commentary that I did for Petting in the Park, where I give you a little mini bio on Bernard Brown, because he did have a really cool career after he left Termite Terrace. So let's jump into the cues for this cartoon, because there's not much to talk about. So obviously, the cartoon starts off with I'm a Big Shot. Well, unfortunately, since the copy that I was watching comes from an old Laserdisc, and it's also a Blue Ribbon reissue, so unfortunately we don't have the music that was scored by Bernard Brown over the opening titles. Hopefully one day we could find it, but you do hear the title track, I'm a Little Big Shot Now. And the cartoon's called I'm a Big Shot Now, but the song itself is called I'm a Little Big Shot Now. It was co-written by Mort Dixon and Ali Rubel. You hear those names a lot in these cartoons. If you want to learn more about Mort Dixon, please check out the commentary that I did for a great big bunch of you. And for Ali Rubel, please check out Pop Goes Your Heart. And the title song itself, if you want to hear it, you have two choices. You could either hear it in this cartoon, or you could hear it from where it originated from. So the song was first featured in a film called Little Big Shot, which came out the year before, 1935. And it was sung by Sybil Jason. Kind of cool. My brother's name is Jason, so I mean, this is not my brother, Jason Cruz, but whatever. But anyway, it was cool to see his name on there. My oldest brother. I have two brothers. But a little information about the singer herself. Sybil Jason, she was born November 23rd, 1927 in Cape Town, South Africa, and she passed away on August 23rd, 2011 in Northridge, California. She was a child actor of the 30s. She was kind of seen as a rival to Shirley Temple. I actually didn't know, I mean, I know who Shirley Temple is, but I never knew about Sybil Jason until I was doing research for this cartoon. And saw some clips of her acting. She was really good child actor. Unfortunately, I couldn't find this particular movie, Little Big Shot, in time for the recording because I wanted to hear how she did it. And in the cartoon itself, Jailbird, or sorry, not Jailbird, I'm thinking of The Simpsons, but Spike, I mean, he is a jailbird at the end of the cartoon, but Spike himself, he doesn't really sing it. It's more like talking, Sprechstimme for us opera people. It's like half sung, half spoken. But yeah, he's not really singing.
I used to be a softy, but I swore I'd be a toughie, and I did it, baby, and how? I'm a little big shot now. I can lick any copper. I can lick them good and proper. They lay off me, baby, and how?
It's like spoken poetry or like the 30s version of hip-hop. But yeah, he speaks it with altered lyrics, and obviously you hear the cartoon throughout the score.
I'm a little big shot now. Why, I hate all bulls and G-men, cause to me they are a fake. Laws are a big joke. They're made to be broke. I wish there was more to break. I used to be a softy, but I swore I'd be a toughie. And I did it. Baby, and how? I'm a little big shot now, yeah.
There's a part later on where you see Spike looking out from his birdhouse hideout, looking for the cops, and you hear the melody of the song played on the baritone saxophone, which is an instrument I used to play. And it sounds so cool there. I mean, I always liked that about these earlier Merry Melodies before Carl Stalling came, that they were very heavily reliant on the bari sax and the woodblock and other instruments like that. So it's kind of neat to hear it. So the next song you hear is How'd You Like to Be a Little Birdie? Wow, if that's not on the nose, I don't know what is. That one was composed by Herman Hupfeld. And just a little quick information about Herman Hupfeld. was born February 1st, 1894 in Montclair, New Jersey. Ah, Jersey boy. And he passed away June 8th, 1951 in Montclair. So he never pretty much left his hometown. And he's actually buried in Mount Hebron Cemetery, which I've driven by. And I have a connection to Montclair. I'm not from Montclair. I wasn't born there. But I did attend Montclair State University. I'm an alumnus from the music department, class of 2011, with a degree in music education. But I had no idea he was Montclair native. And I was in Montclair, actually, a few days ago, because I currently sing in one of the churches in town there. Montclair is a very nice town. I mean, hopefully I can maybe move there one day. And again, I went to university in that town. You know, Montclair State, go Redhawks, woo! But he is most well known for the song As Time Goes By, which is featured in the 1942 film Casablanca. You must remember this, a kiss is still a kiss, so on and so forth. I mean, go watch the film and then you'll hear it done. And obviously when I hear the song, I think of another Jersey native, Frank Sinatra, doing it so beautifully. And for this song, How'd You Like to Be a Birdie? This is pretty much the music you hear when you get to see scenes of Birdville. So again, a little on the nose, but it's a nice little charming song. I thought it was fun, and I haven't seen this cartoon in a while because I've been marathoning the Warner Brothers shorts on top of the stuff I do for Anthony since 2018, and during COVID I was doing a lot of like the early Merry Melodies, and I remember seeing it back then, but there's a lot of things that I forgot about this cartoon, and hopefully sooner or later we'll see this restored because I don't think there's anything too objectionable, and I mean, well, there's a lot of guns, unfortunately, but I'd love to see this on a future, you know, collector's choice, or sorry, collector's vault since it switched over. And the last song you hear in this cartoon is Sweet and Low. I kept wanting to say Sweet and Low, the artificial sweetener or whatever, but I don't need that. Well, I'm recording this late at night, so maybe I shouldn't be thinking about Sweet and Low to put inside coffee because I need to go to bed. And this one was written by our buddies Al Dubin and Harry Warren, the Lennon and McCartney of the Warner Brothers universe. I always say if you want to learn more about Harry Warren, please check out A Great Big Bunch of You. And if you want to check out Al Dubin, please check out the commentary for The Girl, the Ironing Board. This is the music that you hear immediately after you see the establishing shots of Birdville, and you get to see the Birdville Saloon, and you see all the people there having drinks and dancing and so on and so forth. So this is the music you hear during that scene. I always get a kick out of seeing this reuse animation. I think it's originally from A Long Flirtation Walk, another Freeling short, that this animation comes from, because you see it multiple times during these early years of Merry Melodies, you know, just trying to cut corners. I don't blame you. This was during the Great Depression. And one thing about the scene later on when you have Spike, where he pours all the shots and he bangs the table and he drinks them all. I don't drink myself, but I'm thinking the next time I go to a party, I'll tell my friends who do take shots. I'm like, hey, guys, you should pour it out like that and bang the table and try to drink it like that. And then they'll look at me weird and say, why are you saying something like that? It's because I saw it in a cartoon from the 1930s. But, you know, this is why I don't have any friends. No, I'm just kidding. I have my friends. I just, you know, I don't drink. I don't know. Maybe I'll do that with like a little shot of, I don't know, Coke Zero, something like that. But I won't do anything else like Spike did. Like, I don't want to go to jail and I don't like guns, you know. I'm a good boy sometimes. I play a good boy on Wednesday nights. So those are my thoughts for I'm a Big Shot. I almost wanted to start talking about Big Shot, the opening track from the 1978 album 52nd Street by Billy Joel. It is my personal favorite Billy Joel album. I mean, everybody talks about The Stranger. I mean, clearly The Stranger that came out in 1977 is a masterpiece. It's arguably his best album, but I always have a soft spot for 52nd Street. I mean, it did win Album of the Year at the, I believe, the 1980 Grammy Awards. And I mean, you start off with Big Shot, Honesty, My Life. I mean, 3 songs that were relatively big singles. Zanzibar, I love that song. Nice little Freddie Hubbard trumpet solo in that one. You got Stiletto, really cool song. Rosalinda's Eyes, he wrote that about his mom. Great song. And then Half a Mile Away, Until the Night. my personal favorite Billy Joel song. Beautiful ballad, a nice tribute to the Righteous Brothers. And then the final track is the title track, 52nd Street. And 52nd Street, by the way, is 52nd Street in New York City. I believe it's actually West 52nd Street, and it used to have a lot of jazz clubs back in the day, back in like the 50s and 60s and the 40s. And Billy Joel, that album, it has a very heavy jazz vibe to it. Look at that. I just made a beautiful segue from this cartoon to my love of Billy Joel's music. And I need to go watch that documentary, And So It Goes, that just came out on HBO Max. And So It Goes is song he wrote, I believe, in 1983, off the top of my head, and then he eventually recorded the song proper in 1989 on his Stormfront album. And that's one of the 2 albums that Billy Joel made that was released in the time that I was alive, because I was a year old in 1989. And then his last album is River of Dreams, which came out in 1993 when I was 5. And I used to hear the title track a ton as a kid. All right, I think I've done this enough. So thanks for coming to Anthony's Billy Joel Talk, or the Tooney Billy Joel fanboy tenor, or whatever. Okay, I'll stop. Thanks for listening. Please follow me on social media at the Tooney Tenor, TheTooney, TENOR, for my updates on my life as a musician, obviously as a nerd of various things, Ninja Turtles, the Avatar Legends, The Simpsons, Ghostbusters, and of course, my biggest love, the Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies of the golden days of Termite Terrace. Please give me a follow, and thanks for supporting my work. Thank you for supporting Anthony's channel. He's doing tremendous work, and I'll talk to you soon. Go have a shot or 2, or if you're not young enough to drink, or if you don't drink, like I said, go have some soda. And thanks for listening, and don't commit any crimes. Yeah, I don't know where to go with this. So talk to you later, guys. Bye.
Thank you, Manny. Again, this is a little gem. Is it perfect? Not really. It does suffer a little bit because it's forced to promote a song, so everything sort of just stops when he has to sing his little song, but otherwise, it's freely directing a short and now having the Tex Avery influence, and he's only going to get better and better from here. So this is unmistakably a Freeling short if you look at the animation and just the general look of it, but he definitely has the wackier influences creeping in. This one gets a 7 out of 10 for me. I really do like this one, and I hope, once again, to see this one restored. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.
I used to be a toughie, but now I'm just a softie. I can take it. Baby, and how? 'Cause I'm just a jailbird now.